I'm Letitia and I am in full mommy mode right now. I'm in mom gear. I have my hair up and that's okay because I know all of us are moms here, and all of you know that as moms sometimes we just don't have time to fluff ourselves up. But it's been kind of a hectic day today and I wanted to get this video out because it's really important to me. What I want to talk to you all about today is discipline, and I know a lot of people have issues when it comes to disciplining their children, especially like my friends and my family, and they'll say, how do you get your children to behave so well? And to be honest with you, it's not very tough. I'm going to give you all some tips and tricks. Before I get started though, I just have to let you all know I do not spank my children. That's just something I don't like to do. If you discipline your children like that and you are a person that likes spanking, then that is your thing, and that's okay. But as far as myself, I do not spank my children, so I do have tips on how I get them to behave well, to listen and follow directions, and all of that good stuff. So my main focus with my kids is to make sure that they are learning, and they're learning new things all the time, and also to make sure that they are well behaved in not only here at home but in different places as well, and to make sure that they're well mannered and all of that. And I'm very lucky that I have two great kids. My son Caleb is 7 years old and my daughter Leah is 4 years old, and Caleb has autism. So he does have some attention problems, but he is not a problem child at all. He is wonderful, and a lot of kids that have autism do have behavioral issues, and I got very lucky with him. We don't have any behavioral issues with him at all. So my first tip, number one, and before I get onto this tip, the one thing that I noticed with my kids is I noticed a pattern. When I see that they're starting to act up, it's more than likely because they're wanting my attention. No joke. And I've noticed that, and as soon as I see that they're acting up, if I'm doing something that's not that important, I will push it aside and I will say, okay, do you want mommy to play with you? Do you want mommy to read to you? What do you guys want me to do? And that fixes the problem ASAP. So that's tip number one. Analyze the situation, analyze your kids, because sometimes they're just bored and they want your attention, and they're trying to do everything in the world to get your attention. So that's a lot of reasons why my kids will act up most of the time. So tip number one is, if you see that they're acting up, ask them, what's wrong? Do you want mommy to play with you? Do you want my attention? What do you want me to do? And that will more than likely fix the problem, depending on the situation. Now, if they are talking back, which every kid does, what I do with my kids, they very rarely do, but when they do, I tell them, okay, are you the mommy? And they'll say no. And are you supposed to be talking to mommy like that? And they'll say no. Does mommy talk to you like that? And they'll say no. And they'll usually fix the problem. I'll say, you know what, you need to behave. And you know, the way I found, the way that works for me is I find that if I talk to them in a nice way, a calming way, you have to have patience. That works with them all the time. I really don't have issues as far as talking back with my kids, so that's not a big deal. Now I do have issues with both of them fighting, like, you know, they're fighting over toys, or they're fighting over, I don't know if you guys can hear cars, sorry. They're either fighting over toys or they're fighting over books. They'll fight over everything. So when I see them both doing that, even if we buy them the same kind of toy or book, they'll still fight. And that's when I'll have to pull them apart and talk to them individually and tell them, what is the problem? What are you guys fighting over? Well, I want this. Well, I want this. Then I'll tell them, then take turns. You do this first, and then you give it, like, say, Leah, you use this first. Like, they always fight over the Kindle HD Fire. They always fight over that. So I'll tell Leah, you use it first, and Caleb, why don't you go use your DS? Or why don't you come use my computer, my laptop, whatever, and I'll distract them, something like that. Or I'll tell them, you need to share, so one will use it first, and then Caleb, you can use the Kindle later. So 30 minutes for Leah, 30 minutes for Caleb. If I see that that still does not fix the problem, like I said, I don't do spanking, then what I do is I will take the object away, and I will tell them, if you keep misbehaving, then you're just not going to get to play with it at all. And that usually solves a problem like that, or I will put them on a straight up timeout. And I will not put them in the room for a timeout. That is the worst place to put a kid on timeout, because then they'll just go and play with whatever they have in their room, blah, blah, blah. What I like to do is I like to sit one of them, whoever's misbehaving at the kitchen table, and sit them there with nothing. And tell them, you're on a timeout. Like Leah's 4, and I usually do it by age, so I'll tell Leah, you're on a timeout for 4 minutes. And it breaks her heart. It works for me so well. So if she's misbehaving, I'll put her on a timeout for 4 minutes. Or if they have plans to go somewhere, like go play with a friend or go to grandma's house, if they're just misbehaving that bad, that privilege will get taken away. And the one thing I need to tell you is I've started my kids at a very young age when it comes to discipline and teaching them manners and stuff like that. Like probably since they were like a year old, I would tell them, tell mommy thank you, and I would praise them, or I would say please, please, or if I would see that they're getting to something, I go, no, don't do that, come on, let's go, and I take them somewhere else. My thing is I distract my kids. If I see that they're being curious and they're wanting to get into something, I'll tell them, no, let's not do that, come here, let's go look at this, and I'll distract them a lot, and that really works as well. So if you can distract them too, then that's awesome as well. So I don't want to make this video very long. The one thing I can tell you is I do have some friends who have children who have hyperactivity disorder and attention deficit disorder. So you can still use some of these steps with them, however they may not work. And that's when you might have to take your child to a specialist. They may need medication, and that may be the ultimate thing that they need. I am not a big person on medication. However, I've seen it work for a lot of my friends and their children. And because they've tried so many different steps, they just can't get them to behave, or they're just, super hyper, and nothing was working until they actually had them on medication. And I also have some friends that do natural therapy, which I think is amazing, and that works as well. But these are just my tips of what I do with my kids. My kids are really awesome. The one thing that I can tell you is they can pick up on your anger or your frustration or your nervousness. They can tell if they're getting on your nerves. So if they can pick up on that too, then they're just gonna go ahead and go whoom and like fly with that kite, you know what I mean? So just be patient, try out some of these things, and if you have any more questions or need any more advice, please leave comments down below and I will be more than happy to help you. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope this helps so many of you, and I will see you on my next Mommy 411 topic. Thank you guys. Bye.